Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Into the Hive Mind. Just wanted to basically throw out another video that is essentially my reaction to Twisted Dice's Ace Face video. Basically he just released a video talking about a leak of the upcoming December White Dwarf and how it's basically, I guess, Octarius Part 3. And it gives Tyranids a Army of Renown. This is amazing. I thought Tyranids were done with Warzone Octarius. And the new stuff that we got is incredible. John Lennon just recently won the New Orleans Major with Frontline Gaming with Tyranids, with the Warzone Octarius stuff. And so obviously Nids have gotten a really big boost. And now, if you want to play the complete opposite Tyranid list and still be top tier, you absolutely can. Because the Tyranid Army of Renown is the Crusher Stampede, which is all about monsters. So for those of us who want to play Nidzilla, which is definitely my playstyle, I just love throwing all the big scary Tyranid monsters on the table. Yeah, this one's for us. So the Crusher Stampede is the Army of Renown. So let's go with the restrictions. What can you not bring if you want to bring the Crusher Stampede? The restrictions are you are not allowed to bring any swarms. So that's no Rippers, no Sky Slashers. You also are not allowed to bring any single wound models. So that will be all of your Gene Stealers and your Gaunts. So again, this is supposed to be all about monsters, so you don't get to bring any of the little guys. Funnily enough, when I just won the Monster Mash RTT, my list actually fit within those restrictions. I only had Warriors, Hiveguard, Lictors, and Monsters, so that's basically the list archetype that you're going for here. The only other restriction is that for every infantry unit you have in your list, you must have a monster unit. So if you want, you can't spam 3 Hiveguard and a bunch of warriors. You need to have monsters for the Monster Mash list. So for every infantry unit, you must have a monster unit. Honestly, I think that's fine. You're going to want as many monsters as you can pack into this. The downsides of bringing the Army of Renown on top of the restrictions, which honestly the restrictions aren't that bad. You definitely lose a lot of board presence, but you have ways of making up for that, which I will get to in a second. But the downside is you lose your Hive Fleet adaptation. You don't lose your Hive Fleet keyword. You just lose the Hive Fleet adaptation. So if we're playing Leviathan, like I believe all of us are now, you lose that 6-up Feel No Pain. You still keep the Leviathan keyword, so you can still trigger off your Leviathan relics. You can trigger off your Leviathan Warlord Traits. You can trigger off your Leviathan Stratagems that you all got in Part 1 of Warzone Octarius. Because you are still Leviathan, you just lose your 6-up Feel No Pain. Now, what do you gain? Guys, Nids... I was kind of laughing when Art of War put Tyranids at S tier in their tier ranking, but now they absolutely are. I would actually put them as the #1 army after this, personally, but we'll see. You gain the Crusher Stampede keyword, so all non-monsters in your list gain Shielded by the Hivemind, which gives them a 5-up invulnerable save. So that is 1,000 Suns that have an army-wide 5-up invul, which really helps them a lot. Yeah, we get that on our Warriors and Hiveguard now. So yeah, Hiveguard with 5-up invul. We don't need our ignore AP 1 and 2 anymore. It just just give all your infantry a 5-up invul. And then your non-infantry, so all your monsters, also get a 5-up invul, which is amazing because now we don't have to spend CP and adaptive physiologies on Dermic Symbiosis. So all of our Carnifexes get 5-up invuls, which is what I've been saying Carnifexes need to be competitive. Either that or -1 damage. Well, don't worry, it gets better. We get our 5-up invul, and all of our monsters get -1 damage. All of them. I can't even express how absolutely absurd that is. One of the top lists in the meta right now is the Dark Eldar running a bunch of Talos and Kronos and Grotesques that all have -1 damage. And they're T5 and 7 with 4 and 7 wounds and a 5-up invuln. We can now have toughness 8, 18 wound barbed Hierodules with 5-up invulns and -1 damage, or side Hierodules. That's absolutely insane. But wait, there's still more. The amount of wounds that your monster has is how many models it counts as while it's on an objective. So our barbed Hierodules and our Demacarons count as 18 models. So screw you, knights. Your big knights count as 10. Yeah, we basically double that for half the points. And we still have our strat to be OBSEC in the command phase. So that's pretty good. I don't know how people beat this, honestly. This is absolutely disgusting. Carnifex spam could actually be a really viable thing. I think Hierodules are going to be better. I mean, just mass Hierodules. 3 side, 3 barbed at this point. That's your list. But, yeah. So, that's your traits. Because I threw so much just wow into there, I will go over it really quickly again. Your entire army gets a 5-up invulnerable save. Infantry and monsters. Your monsters also get -1 damage, and your monsters count the number of wounds they have. I don't know if it's wounds remaining or wound characteristic. I think it's wound characteristic, but the amount of wounds that your monster has is how many models it counts as on an objective. So yeah, really, really good. And we could have stopped there and been in an absolutely incredible place for a really cool Army of Renown Monster Mash list. But we also got Warlord Traits and Psychic Powers and Stratagems. So the Warlord Traits, we got 3 of them. Raging Influence. This is a 6-inch aura of exploding 6s in combat. So put that on your Hive Tyrant who has 5 attacks with the double Scything Talons, and he's hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, 6s count as 2 hits, and if he has Hierodules next to him, he gives them 6-up explodes as well. Yeah. I think it's unmodified 6s because I believe, it's new. They fixed it. So having pluses to hit doesn't affect that. But a 6-inch aura of 6s explode. It is only in combat, but that's amazing. I believe we could combine that with Relentless Flurry and have Tesla combat with our 6 attacks on like a Trigon or a Scythe Hierodule. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, 6s to hit, count as 3 hits. Seems good. Seems really, really good. Next Warlord trait, Savage Intimidation. A 3-inch aura of -1 to hit and combat attrition for enemies. So very small bubble, but again, if you have like a Flyrant with this Warlord trait, he flies over, punches something, and then punching him back, he'll be -1 to hit. And you can still give him the Leviathan Relic that makes him -1 to wound. And then because you're in this Army of Renown, you're also -1 damage. So you can now have a Flyrant with -1 to hit, -1 to wound, -1 damage, and, throw Catalyst on him. Why not? He'll just never die. The combat attrition is like a neat trick, but will probably rarely come up. Honestly, like, the Warlord trait's good. It probably won't be taken, but I think the only time it will be taken is to make an unkillable Flyrant. Final Warlord trait is Rampaging Beast. Your Warlord gets D3 extra attacks. Aceface says this was once per game, but in the comment section of his video, they said it wasn't. So I'm not sure on that. It's once per game or not. Either way, I actually don't think you'll be taking this. It's really good on that Flyrant because, again, you could suddenly have your 5 attacks with Scything Talons with that Raging Influence. You have 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s for 1 CP, Relentless Flurry, and your 6s to hit count as 3 hits. And now you have 5 plus D3 attacks. Imagine you get that 8. I think that averages 10 hits with your Flyrant now. And that was always their biggest downside, was they only had 5 attacks. So being able to just make this guy unbelievably killy. And you can throw Murderous Size on him too. So he's strength 7, AP 4, flat 4 damage. 1 CP, reroll wound rolls. Yeah. 3 CP, fight twice. You'll kill stuff. Trust me. You can kill so many things. But yeah, I don't think you're going to use it because now we have psychic powers. And so all of these new psychic powers affect only single models. So you can't give these to like a squad of Hive Guard or warriors because the list is all based around monsters. But we got all of these powers cast on a 6. We got 3 of them. You have Aggressive Surge, which gives your model D3 extra attacks. So you don't need the Warlord trait. Just cast the psychic power on him. And now your Flyrant can get, you know, those 10 hits that I was just talking about. Or if you really want to go all in, you can give Raging Influence and have that second Warlord trait for Rampaging Beast. You won't have the -1 to hit, but you could have a -1 to wound, -1 damage, absolute beast in combat that sits there with 5 attacks plus 2 D3 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, every 6 to hit is 3 hits. AP 4 for 4. Yeah, that'll kill anything in the game, I'm pretty sure. We also got Infused Energies, which just gives you reroll hit rolls. So now also cast that on the same Flyrant, and we get the crazy stupid Tesla that we have on our Gaunts, and we just get it on our monsters. So you can reroll all hit rolls. You don't have to reroll misses. You can reroll everything that's not a 6, and every 6 is 3 hits. So yeah, just cast that on a 6. That does mean you want a lot of Psychers in your Monster Mash list. So maybe just bring 3 Flyrants. They all cast 2 powers, and yeah, I mean, or you're probably going to have Maliceptors for that -1 strength bubble, because on toughness 8 dudes, -1 strength is really good. The final power is Synaptic Barrier. This just gives a model a 4-up invuln, which is absolutely amazing. It's a little less amazing now that your entire army has a 5-up invuln, but still amazing. You put this on a Scythe Hierodule or a Harridan. Yeah, and by the way, these work on Harridans, as far as I'm aware, all these powers and strats and everything, which is incredible. Yeah, so our 3 psychic powers are, they all cast on 6s, can only target monsters, but you have Synaptic Barrier that gives you a 4-up invuln, you have Aggressive Surge that gives you D3 extra attacks, and you have Infused Energies that gives you reroll hits. And I believe reroll hits is shooting and combat, because it, at least Aceface didn't specify, so I'm pretty sure it's both. So now moving on to our stratagems, because we're not overpowered enough at this point, we've got Unbreakable Chitin. This is transhuman. It's literally just transhuman. You can only be wounded on a 4+. Or sorry, it's unmodified rolls of a 1, 2, and 3 always fail. So it's even better if your opponent has +1 to wound. They just don't on a 3. Yeah, this costs 2 CP if it's on a model with 10 wounds or more. 1 CP if it's on a model with less than 10 wounds. So I actually think this one's probably not going to be used as much on our monsters because, I mean, if you're toughness 8, there's very little in the game that's not going to wound you on 3s. So for 2 CP to be wounded on 4s is okay, but our army is going to be very CP starved. So I don't actually think we're going to use this a lot. What you might use it on is your Hive Guard, because I believe it can be used on Hive Guard. It says if it's 10 wounds or less, or if it's less than 10 wounds, then it's only 1 CP. I don't know if that's 10 wounds overall in the unit, or each model has less than 10 wounds. I'm not sure, but if you can give Transhuman to your Hive Guard, that's probably where this stratagem is going to go, or Warriors. Yeah, make it where they can only be wounded on 4-ups, and then, you know, with the Warriors, also just take the -1 damage strat, so suddenly your Warriors are just as hard to kill as your monsters with Transhuman and a 5-up invuln and -1 damage. Seems stupidly good. Next stratagem, Death Surge. Non-character monsters can fight on death. So we already have the one that allows character monsters to fight on death, or characters to fight on death. Now we have non-character monsters can fight on death. It's still 2 CP, same as the other one that we have, but the difference on this one is you get to count as you're on your top bracket. So you just killed my Flyrant that, I guess Flyrants are characters, but you just killed, you know, a Trigon or a Scythe Tyranid. Well, here comes my 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s for D3 plus 3 damage at strength 10, AP 3 for 2 CP. That's absolutely absurd. It's really good. Yeah, 2 CP. I actually don't know how much we'll be using it. I think more often than the Transhuman. But again, our lists are going to be incredibly starved for CP. Next stratagem, Breaking Through. Again, absurd. You in your charge phase, you do mortal wounds like Carnifexes did, but you know how unimpressive our charging mortal wounds have been? Well, no longer. In the charge phase, you roll dice equal to your wounds. I don't know, again, if this is wounds remaining or wound characteristic. I'm leaning towards characteristic, but it honestly doesn't matter. This stratagem's just that good. So you roll dice equal to the number of wounds. Every 4+ does a mortal wound. Up to a max of 6. You get +1 to this roll if your strength is higher than your opponent's. And I'm not sure if it's your opponent's strength or toughness, but if your strength is higher, so any, you know, your toughness, your strength 7 or 8 monsters, which is going to be basically your whole list. If your strength is higher, then on a 3-up, you do a mortal wound. This means even your Flyrants with a wound characteristic of 12 will basically do that max 6 every single time, even if they're not higher strength. It's, you know, 12 dice and 4-up is a mortal wound up to 6. You average 6. You do get -1 to this roll if their strength, maybe toughness, is higher than yours. So on a 5-up, you know, that's probably the only time you don't use this stratagem. But just doing 6 mortals on the charge against essentially 2/3 of the units in the game is really, really good. And I don't know if this is 1 CP or 2. I imagine 2 because it's just that good. If it's 1, good on us, I guess. The next 2 stratagems are basically just for warriors, because I guess in their mind they're picturing this entire list as nothing but monsters and warriors. I think it's going to be monsters and Hive Guard and probably 1 warrior unit, but yeah, the next 2 stratagems, they're not that great. The first one gives warriors +1 weapon skill and ballistic skill, which is good, but warriors they don't have much of a damage output, so wasting CP on trying to increase their damage output when you can spend your CP in much more valuable places on all your monsters with all these other incredible stratagems. Yeah, I mean, it's all right. Warriors get +1 weapon skill and ballistic skill. I mean, that makes them weapon skill 2-up, ballistic skill 3-up, and if they have a prime or use their their synaptic link on themselves, they can have a hitting on 1s and 2s in shooting, which is really good, and maybe 6 Death Spitters and 3 Venom Cannons suddenly becomes worth using if your entire unit hits on 2s. But that's probably for anti-horde, which this list, your monster mash list will struggle with anti-horde. So might be worth taking some death spitters on your warriors. The other strat allows your warriors to basically count as monsters in the shooting phase. So if they're tied up in combat, they can shoot into that combat at a -1 to hit. Again, you can combine this with the +1 weapon skill strat and giving themselves the +1 through their synaptic link. So they can basically still hit on 3s at least in combat, which when you have normally a 4-up ballistic skill is really good. And yeah, that's it. That's everything that's leaked. No big deal. This is coming out in the December White Dwarf. So Merry Christmas, Tyranids. We are now absolutely S tier. Aceface said that this wasn't as good as the original Leviathan supplement, and that might be true, but it's plenty good enough in my opinion. I actually expect to see this, if this is out in time for LVO, which I believe it will be, then I expect at least one of these lists to be in the top 8 at LVO, and honestly, I think 2 of them will be. You might get, I think you'll at least get 2 Tyranid lists. It might be one being the John Lennon list that has almost no monsters. Actually, I think just a Maliceptor. And then the other list be this Monster Mash. But I think both of them have extreme play into the meta. I think John Lennon's list, you have to be as good as John Lennon to play it. It's all about movement positioning and getting the absolute most out of all of your little guys that are very fragile and can basically, you just need to trade up with every single unit and be very good about using terrain, be very good about using movement blocking. This is a much friendlier list to you where you can just play unkillable monsters that just smash everything. Again, the biggest issue is going to be your volume of attacks. So I think side Curaduals are actually going to be really important because you want that 3d6 flamer to help out. I mean, maybe you're taking Carnifexes with 4 Devourers again, because yeah, I think Hordes is going to be the only weakness of this list. And if you're just bring 3 quad Devourer Carnifexes with +1 to hit, and they'll actually live now because they have -1 damage and a 5-up invuln. Yeah. I'll probably make another video once I've had time to let this settle and go over real list ideas. But right off the top of my head, combinations are combining Raging Influence and the Aggressive Surge Psychic Power on a Flyrant, and also casting Infused Energy to reroll all hit rolls. And basically, I think on average that gives you 13 hits with your Flyrant in combat, which is over double anything that they've ever been able to do before. So yeah, they can be absolute murder machines. Otherwise, I think just mass hero duels is insane. Obviously, a Harridan with these buffs is just flat better than what it was. I don't think the Harridan's the way to go actually with this list though, because you're only benefiting one monster that honestly was already kind of getting the buffs through Dermic Symbiosis. -1 damage is obviously huge on him, but the Harridan can be countered by just being really strategic about board placement and basically ignoring the Harridan. So I don't think your opponent could ignore the 3 monsters that would take the place of the Harridan. Especially because, you know, they now count as lots of models for holding objectives. The biggest downside of the Harridan is it can't hold or contest models being aircraft. Anyways, I'm rambling. I just wanted to get this out there, how absolutely absurd this is. I haven't made a video in a little bit. I have played a decent amount with the new NIDs, but nothing crazy exciting has happened. I played 1 GT. I went 3-2 with the Harridan, losing to Rich Kilton, who's an exceptional orc player. His new orcs, I got paired up against him round 1. So it was a great game, super fun. But basically, I was playing a Harridan and he was playing MSU orcs that are all OBSEC in trucks, and he just ignored the Harridan and played the mission, which he's very good at doing. So he ended up winning that game. Like, it was very high scoring, 92 to 84, I think it was. So I lost that game, and then I lost another game where I was just dumb, landed the Harridan, charged a side Tyranid. I was actually playing a Tyranid mirror match, and put it down to 5 wounds, but with Dermic Symbiosis, it counted as top profile, hit my Harridan back, and one-shot it. So I lost that game because my Harridan died turn 1 because I landed it and charged a side Tyranid, which was just a really dumb mistake on my part. I should have known that risk was probably not worth it. Other than that, I haven't played much. I played in a fun trash RTT where you give your opponent an intentionally bad list. I didn't feel like making a video on that because I actually just played Sisters. I gave a really terrible mid list to someone else. But yeah, it was a fun event, but nothing too crazy to talk about. So yeah, that's this video. I'm sure I'll be making lots more because this is absolutely insane, and I'll finally start playing, practicing for LVO now. I've got a tournament on January 8th that I'll be going to. It's another major, so I will probably make a video on that one. Hopefully I do a little better than the 3-2 that I did at the last one, and if so, I will absolutely make a video for you guys. So I will talk to you all later. Thank you for watching this far if you did, and see you next time. Thanks.